So, I have a bit of a problem with the way H3H3 Productions has been operating lately. For those of you not in the know, Ethan Klein of H3H3 has become a bit notorious for making some controversial moves, a few of which I take personal issue with. Emotionally charged statements made on incredibly sensitive and nuanced topics being the number one. My problem isn't that he has different opinions, it's that he's under-researched, or sometimes even outright wrong, yet feels the need to express an ostensibly strong opinion on matters he has no fucking clue about. Sweeping generalizations, exaggerations that stretch the truth, and empty rhetoric have gotten a lot of play recently. And I would have less of a problem with it if it was more clearly comedy-focused, but Ethan insists on injecting social and political commentary into the podcast, often going on these inane tangents where he has nothing of substance to say, or is completely ignorant on the subjects, yet implies he's serious about them. The shit he said on H3 podcast number 79, for example, the one everyone seems to be talking about, and with good reason. He stated how he believed that because of the unfortunate presence of child abusers in the Catholic Church, this meant that all of Catholicism must be in support of it.
How can you allow an organization that's covered up that treachery, that evilness, for so long continue to exist? They should be ran out. I think it's time to close it down. I think it's time to lock shop up on that church.
Can you imagine if he had said that all of Islam was responsible for and even supports the acts of terrorist groups, therefore it should be abolished? That everyone is in on it?
Everybody's in on it, bro.
Everybody?
The fucking everybody. The whole church.
It is horribly irresponsible and incredibly fucking retarded to conflate a behavior belonging to a type of person with a widely diverse religious practice. The awful people present in a group who exploit its systems for their own benefit, making a mockery of it, are not representative of its ideologies. Here's another example of this logic being put into action. You know, there sure are a lot of school shooters in schools. Maybe. Just get rid of the schools. I mean, it happens so often in them. Maybe the schools are just letting them get away with it. They must all be in on it.
Who is all in on it?
Everybody.
What do you mean?
Everybody.
Everyone's in on it. I mean, how can you let your kids go to schools where there are school shooters if you don't want them to get shot?
About as serious as a school shooting.
For someone who is so influential on one of the largest platforms, to so readily spread misinformation like this is unbelievably irresponsible. How can you constantly rag on people like the Paul brothers for being a bad influence when you so carelessly spout this kind of bullshit? Which is why I don't think the focus is on comedy anymore. It's become more about sensationalizing the news to maintain hyper-relevancy, made apparent by attacking points nobody made.
You are not entitled to a perfect, harmless existence because you're a cop.
Constant unnecessary theatrics.
Drop the fucking gun!
Exaggerating the truth.
87-year-old woman
Really?
tased while cutting dandelion.
And even making shit up entirely to support a narrative.
You signed up for a dangerous job, and you're well compensated. Because the police training in the United States is basically, if you are in any risk, shoot to kill.
There's this awfully common thing I see people do, to which Ethan is incredibly guilty of, where they bring up these what-if situations, not based off any sort of evidence, just what they think is the most interesting or outrageous scenario. They don't seem to realize or care that people will take these hypothetical scenarios and run with it as if it actually happened. There's no proof that the Logan Paul versus KSI fight was rigged.
That would be a pretty serious crime. To fix a large sporting event like this. But again, you know, yeah. Would they do this? Yes, definitely yes.
No reason to think that FouseyTube called a bomb threat on his own event.
But if Fousey called the bomb threat, he wasn't at the venue yet. But if he called it in himself, I wonder if he was able to get a refund. To be like, oh man, the show never happened. Or, oh, I don't have to be embarrassed because Drake never showed up. You know what I'm saying? He kind of benefited the most from that bomb threat.
As far as I know, police officers are not trained to shoot at the first sign of trouble.
Because the police training in the United States is basically, if you are in any risk, shoot to kill.
And I don't think that the Catholic Church is a conspiratorial cult of pedophiles.
What exactly does the Catholic Church do except rape kids? The Catholic Church is literally a satanic cult.
All ideas presented in the H3 podcast, none of which are substantiated by anything but Ethan's imagination. But more impressionable, less intelligent viewers will adopt these hot takes as truth because they're coming from a source they trust. Something H3H3 supposedly understands, well, with how much they talk about how the Paul brothers exploit their younger audience, but don't seem to practice. To people who say it's easy for me to speak on these subjects in hindsight, I'm inclined to agree. It was very easy for me to sit down and inspect an abundance of information, then take the time to form an opinion based off what I learned. You know, that thing Ethan doesn't do. It isn't particularly hard to check your sources, but it's unacceptable to not do so when you are considered a cultural icon who has a team of people to assist with research. I also really don't like the argument that they don't have the time to sufficiently inform themselves. If you don't have the time, then don't talk about it. You just make yourself look fucking stupid. And I doubt the amount of time allotted is a direct indicator of the quality of their work, because the last thing to have appeared on their main channel after 3 months was that abortion. But we'll get to that in a bit. It doesn't even matter if they're live. They have people operating in the studio who have been shown to pull up information on demand. Ethan has a co-host, and, presumably, time set aside to prepare talking points on the podcast. All the time and resources you could possibly ask for to produce decent content, yet it culminates in these long, opinionated, unfunny, and again, most importantly, uninformed segments. And I can sympathize. There's probably a lot of pressure to produce something of quality, which would naturally encourage taking up different, often drastic measures to stay entertaining. But that doesn't mean it's right to hop on every idea haphazardly. Now, to be clear, I don't really care about whether or not it's morally right. People explore all kinds of avenues in order to keep their channels afloat on this platform. In this case, I dislike that they are not only lazy, but also hypocrites. I don't understand how someone can criticize people who employ supposedly shitty, predatory practices, then turn around and release a mobile game filled with time gates, microtransactions, and entirely deceptive price tagging. It's also important to keep in mind that the advertisement made for this game was the first video uploaded on their main channel in 3 months. So I guess this is the quality we have to look forward to now.
I gotta squint to look at this shit, man.
Look, it is totally fine to take measures that are financially beneficial to your brand, but if it involves employing the same tactics of the people you previously denounced, then your words, your thoughts, your opinions, they lose legitimacy in light of your actions. I remember years ago, when I'd first discovered Ethan and Hila, I'd never seen people who were so in tune with YouTube's creative climate, who were just as much along for the ride as everyone else. Watching their reaction videos was like seeing the platform look back in on itself. It really was a special thing. Nowadays, it's just some dude bro who goes and tries to make thought-provoking commentary on subjects he's uninformed about, spreading misinformation to thousands of people. But the worst part, it's just that he's not even funny anymore. I have never seen someone lose touch so quickly in the pursuit of maintaining relevancy. It's really sad to see what was once a producer of quality content turn into Keemstar. If they were always this way, I wouldn't have set my expectations so high. Now I say all this, but it's very clear you guys are doing well for yourselves. You've got plenty of sponsors in the pocket, a clothing line, and you're well-respected personalities. The podcast is undoubtedly a reliable source of revenue considering you guys have moved past doing your usual reaction videos for some time now. I mean shit, you've even had some high-profile guests make appearances on it. But it's just not for me anymore. I have no doubt you'll find your stride again, but I just don't have the patience to wait for that to happen. Merchandise and running jokes, riding on the coattails of better times, guests who are more interesting and insightful than you, but that you aren't mentally prepared to engage with properly, they're not enough to distract me from the direction your content's taken. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that they should go back to their old format, or even that there's anything inherently wrong with the methods they've been utilizing now. Just that they could be doing what they're doing, but with a bit more honesty. That's all.
So I have a very low level of patience for people that dog it at their jobs. And I don't give a fuck if you hate your job. Just going in there and just not doing a good job. It's just like, it's just like, then quit.
Oh, another thing I noticed is that when Ethan says or does something he thinks is really funny, he will keep repeating it in rapid succession.
Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Drop the fucking knife! Drop the fucking knife! Take one step forward and we'll shoot you, bitch! Put down the knife! She won't put the knife down.